There's some pictures that came out that showed Islam Makhachev, the guy who just fought Alexander Volkanovski.
Yeah.
And Volk is our boy.
We love Volk.
We love Volk. This is why we're talking about this. Obviously, yes, we're biased. We want to protect Volk. But there's some images that came back that showed Islam with a bruise on a part of his arm where a vein would be. Now, that bruise is a typical bruise for someone who has received an IV. You're not allowed to rehydrate with an IV. There's a 2-year suspension for that. They look at it like performance-enhancing drugs because in a lot of ways it is. You've depleted your body with so much water to make weight, and now you found a way to get all that water back into it before the fight, and the only way to do it at that speed is to just have it done intravenously.
Oh yeah, I did an IV drip the other day. That shit was
I saw you.
Wonderful.
And you have a little sore on the arm?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I look at these images and I was like, look, this could be photoshopped, right? There's also a video from the UFC's Embedded show. Now, Embedded is where they do remember the 24/7 Floyd Mayweather type things, they follow the fighters. So they have video of him, I think it's before the fight, where you also see the wound. I think you have the video, dude.
Yeah, I'll pull it up right here.
So you also see the black and blue. Now, he's also a boxer. I don't want to say this is fact.
That's what I'm saying.
He's also not a boxer, he's also a fighter. You could get bruises. Maybe that's a part where you got a bruise. There are other options here. The only problem is that there are rumors swirling that the woman that administered the IV has spoken to people and said that she did it.
Where did he get the IV? Do we know if it's in Australia?
Yeah,
course, 'cause he's there.
Because Dan Hooker tweeted about it, and he was like,
Dan Hooker tweeted about it. It's after the weigh-in.
Right.
So Hooker was like, do you really think that you could get an IV in Australia and we wouldn't find out?
I do actually. It's a big country.
I don't.
Nah, but they rubbish.
You're fighting a hometown hero.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You got to bring your people in to do that. I mean, to me, the only reason why I wouldn't believe this is because I can't imagine that somebody or somebody's team is so mind-bogglingly stupid that they would just risk it with a random IV company.
Also, the most disciplined people on the world. Like, they're gonna go on Google and be like, IVs in my area.
Yeah.
Send them over. And also, you're the most recognized. There's nobody that's got only beard hair here
No,
in
it's
all
illegal
of
in Australia.
Australia.
That IV lady probably works for Twitter too.
Snitching.
Yeah.
But she won't come out. She's kind of like thorough. She's basically, they're basically like, yo, are you gonna just come out and just say that he did this? She's like, I don't want to deal with the backlash. I don't want to deal with everything that's going on. But I have spoken to some people that have, I have on decent authority that they may have spoken to her and that's what's being claimed. Now this is huge. One, the UFC does not want this. You don't want a controversy about making weight. Two, they would have to suspend him for 2 fucking years.
yeah.
Whoa.
You don't want one of your stars that you're calling the
Big
pound
name.
for pound guy to be a cheat. And then 3, this not only tarnishes his legacy, but does it tarnish the whole camp?
Yeah.
You start looking at
Could
the
be.
rest of the people in the camp and
Also,
then
how
going,
much does the IV do
it
for
is-
performance?
If you're cutting,
It is-
if you're cutting
there's
a
nothing
lot
more-
of weight, think about how much you got to dehydrate yourself
Yeah.
to be 15 pounds lighter than you normally are when you're already that fit.
Yeah.
and it helps in 2 ways. One, all your cardio goes, not all, but a lot, your cardio significantly is reduced when you take all the water out of your body. Your body's just so depleted. But 2, you're easier to get knocked out. So your chin goes without that water. So being able to rehydrate and get back to normal and be able to have the cardio, but also be able to withstand punches is unfathomably important in a fight.
Huge advantage.
And especially when you're a guy who's cutting weight to have an advantage.
Yeah.
That's why it's a 2-year suspension. Think about that. I think for like a drug, it's 1 or even less. It's such an advantage in a fight that the suspension is for 2
Especially if
fucking
you're
years.
coming up and he's coming down. The one advantage you have is if he's coming down a lot, he's going to get tired, he's going to get gassed. Otherwise, if he can go right back to that level of strength and endurance, you're fucked. It's going right back to that 30-pound advantage or whatever.
Right.
I don't,
essentially.
But as far as casting doubt on the rest of the camp, though, like,
I don't necessarily do that, but what I'm saying is that's what happens. Like when there's one cheat within an organization, you assume, like if Lance Armstrong is cheating, you're like, well, aren't all the...
Yeah.
Jose Canseco got popped for steroids and was like, I was giving them to everybody. That's just what and it makes sense. You're like, yeah, of course.
And then you're dealing with, like, that's why I'm saying if Islam did this, and again, this is a rumor, I can't confirm any of this, and I'm also very like delicate with even saying these things because this is this person's livelihood. This is, he ended up getting a decision over a guy who's our boy that we love, but at the same time, it's like, we gotta be delicate with these rumors until it's true. These are rumors, but there's a lot of evidence that looks like there's some shady shit
And
that's
this
going
is
on.
for sure, because I'm looking at some of these pictures and it looks like it could be camp pictures, like from camp. This video for sure is after the weigh-in before the fight.
Yep.
Okay. Because yeah, there is a spot there. Because I was thinking some of those pictures could just be normal camp training, gloves on.
I mean, I can't believe that they didn't just put some fucking. I can't believe they didn't just put some what's it called on it, some
makeup or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Wear a
it's-
long sleeve shirt.
It seems so obvious that you would think that it's not that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like if you were really worried or concerned about it, you would wear a long sleeve shirt. You would try to hide it. The fact that he's not trying to hide it almost makes me go like, okay, maybe this is a misunderstanding. Maybe he got an IV for something else. Maybe they had to take blood for a blood test.
Right.
Maybe USADA was like, hey, we need to.
But then that nurse would kind of be smart enough to say, I gave him a blood test. And not,
That's the only thing that's tricky. Is
But then
that
we don't
there's-
have a nurse though.
Exactly. There is allegedly a nurse who's saying that this did happen but won't come out.
Yeah.
And that's a big fucking allegedly.
Yeah.
You know? And it sucks because the fight was so incredible. It's
So good.
It was just, Volk is the man.
amazing.
And I honestly, I'm not mad at the decision. I kind of scored it 3-2 as well.
I'm very much a novice, but
Yeah.
I thought it all came down to the second round, and I thought, novice opinion, he had more like time with Volk on the ground, even though Volk wasn't like phased by it. So I could be wrong, but that's how I had it.
It was just a great fight. The fact that it was just so close. It's like, I couldn't really tell at the end.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad either way.
Yeah.
But with the decision, but there is a new way that we're going to have to look at scoring for fights, like just holding somebody in a dominant position without doing anything. Like Volk was doing these punches and he was punching, what's his face, Makhachev behind his head. Is there a lot of power on those punches? Maybe not. Would we like to get hit with them now? Definitely not.
Right.
But to me, that's more damage than someone just being
Holding.
a backpack.
Right.
And not inflicting any pain whatsoever. So it's like, if you score those punches as more than the holding that person in a dominant position,
Yeah.
then I see why you would give the round to Volk and then Volk wins.
Yeah. Yeah. The scoring really dictates strategy. That if you just have to be in a dominant or winning position for the majority of the fight, it's like, I'll just try to hold you.
Yeah.
I'll just work on ground. I don't really need to work on striking, which is sort of the strategy of the camp, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Volk was just so impressive.
He's also just a classy dude.
Yeah,
and also I would say Islam's response was also cool. Like I thought both of them were
They both
respectful.
gave it up to
And I
one
love
another.
that. There was like a nice fight where they both clearly respect each other. Even before round 5, they dapped each other up.
Bro,
sure.
Volk, I don't know if you guys saw this, when Islam had his hand raised, the crowd started to boo, and you could see Volk in the background
Like, no, cut it out.
going, yo, chill, don't do that. Like, the guy's fucking pure class.
He really is.
But also, what he is an unbelievable athlete that was bringing a pain to Islam. Like, if that's a street fight, Islam's not making it home.
Yeah.
Like, he's exhausted at the end, looking for the clock every 2 fucking seconds. Volk looks like it's the first fucking round.
Yeah.
Like, he's the smaller guy who couldn't be out-wrestled, couldn't be choked out, all the things that Islam has just absolutely dominated people doing.
what I'm saying, yeah.
And it's like, this motherfucker is not to be played with. And Islam gave it up to him.
Yeah.
100%. What I will say about Islam was that his distance management was phenomenal. I've never seen Volk look like he was extending himself too much to land a punch. And granted, Islam is taller, but Volk's fought taller guys. But Islam managed the distance so well that when Volk was striking, he had to take real risk to get in there.
Yeah. I was
And-
getting nervous.
Yeah, and it's like, I got to give Islam credit in that regard. But I think if they run it back, I think Volk wins that easy.
Yeah.
And
And it's,
I hope he doesn't get suspended so they can run it back.
I hope that that's not true.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of the sport and for the sake of Volk, like going in there against somebody who's got like an illegal advantage, like, and then losing that fight, they would take away the L. But like, I'd rather you just didn't put your body on the line for somebody
it's
that had
5
that.
months of your life, for however many months the camp is for like, oh, it's all kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
But it's also a good turnout for him, regardless. Like, omitting the conspiracy angle that you lose, but you lose on a technicality. I guess, or you lose on points, but you win in spirit.
Yeah. And
Like-
you lose in a fight that a lot of people, like Rogan apparently thought Volk won.
Yep.
So that says something.
Yeah.
It's funny, UFC is trying to call Islam the pound for pound #1 now.
Yeah, I don't see that.
That was never up for grabs for him, in my opinion. It makes Volk pound for pound if he comes up in weight and beats the bigger guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you be pound for pound if you're fighting the smaller guy.
You're a defender.
Especially
Whereas
if it's
Volk
close.
is going for the challenger.
Yeah, you get to keep your belt, but you don't gain more.
Yeah.
I think if you come up, you're taking the challenge, and if you beat that person one division up, it's like, this guy is so
That's
dominant.
what the trade-off is. You have a lot to gain, but you're at a disadvantage because you're coming up.
Exactly.
It still makes you pound for pound if you're used to fighting at a certain weight and you have to drop more than you normally have to drop.
No, he
So
doesn't.
now-
He didn't. He stayed at his normal weight.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought they. Like,
I thought he dropped more too. Yeah.
No.
They like.
But that's my thing with the IV thing. Like, if he didn't come down more than he normally is, like, why is this recovery so much worse? And why did he have to do this if this is normal cut? So and that's why I'm kind of like, I don't.
Well, that means he would be bigger than normal.
He either wasn't training as hard or wasn't monitoring the food as much, or what happens is as you get older, you start to hold on to the weight, and cutting that water weight is fucking hard. They say this with boxers. It's like they used to be able to take off the 20 pounds in water weight, and towards the end of their careers, they just can't do it. Yeah. They just don't shed. So, I mean, the guy's probably been cutting weight since he was doing wrestling as like a fucking 9-year-old.
Yeah, 8-year-old.
Yeah.
So...
You know, when you talk about Volk's cardio, what I thought about, and we love Izzy as maybe one of my favorite athletes in the world, but when he fought Jan, I think was his name, when he went up, Jan just leaning on Izzy. You could see Izzy get tired after rounds of that.
Yep.
And obviously Izzy's one of the greatest athletes on earth. Volk had a similar thing, maybe not the same weight difference, but similar thing, just getting leaned on, getting held on the ground, and wasn't remotely fatigued. It's mind-boggling.
I have a theory about that.
Okay.
He comes from Aussie rules rugby.
Right, you talked about,
where he was weighing much more. I think he was weighing over 200 pounds. But also, they run like 10 miles a match.
Non-stop running.
You'll never see guys that size with that good cardio. They're just, even football is stop and go.
Yeah, sprints.
But the Aussie is constant, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think cardio for a guy like Volk, obviously he works really hard at it, but having that background where it was just nonstop
and it's physical.
running.
It's physical with cardio. It's not like soccer where it's not that physical.
Yeah.
But you're like tackling the fuck out of each other.
Yeah.
So the cardio for him, that's just it's just a lesser version of what I do. And I'm lighter now.
Hell yeah.
I was 40 pounds heavier back then running like that. Now I'm lighter. This is light work.
I think weirdly in a loss, he solidifies himself as pound for pound.
You might be right.
It's the weirdest thing that happens, but it's like you came up, you fought the most dangerous guy in the UFC, so to say, and some people think you beat him.
Yeah.
It was without a doubt a very close fight. You finished the fight in the dominant position.
But
you can't take pound for pound until you do it. Like, just because you feel like
he was
someone
number
won.
one is the thing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but he's not trying to go from 2 to 1. He was number 1, right? So I think he holds his spot until somebody takes it from him. I don't think Islam took it from him.
No, of course. But I'm saying, like, if the whole claim is like, oh, double belt champ, pound for pound, you can't really be that until you do it, which if they rematch, I think he'll do it.
Oh, I didn't say he was the double belt.
Right, but you're saying pound for pound, and I'm like, you're not pound for pound until you win the fight against the guy at a different weight class to become pound for pound. You know what I mean?
I don't know if that makes you pound for pound, because he was pound for pound before, when he never fought the guy in a different weight class.
But that was still just a...
Basically, it's like, you can't say who the best fighter is, because the bigger fighters could just absolutely destroy a smaller fighter.
Yeah.
So pound for pound is basically saying, this is the best person if we looked at all... if we looked at all fighters almost equally. Now, we can't, because heavyweights have such an advantage. Like a heavyweight fighting a guy at 155 pounds, one punch on the top of the head like a cartoon, and they're fucking dead. But a guy but if we look at them evenly, like Floyd was the number 1 pound for pound, he couldn't be a heavyweight, but he was so dominant within his weight classes that we go, his skill is the best.
Oh, shit, I've always looked at that wrong. I thought pound for pound means like you've moved a couple of weight classes and you were the dominant person in those weight. I thought you have to be at least 2 different weight classes to be pound for pound.
Oh, no.
No,
I
but
didn't think
what happens is when you move weight classes, you prove your dominance.
Yeah.
So it helps it, but it's not a requirement.
It's like in basketball, if they did inch for inch, Allen Iverson might be the best player ever because he's 5'9" or whatever.
Oh, that's...
And he was so fucking good. Jordan's a better player, but Jordan was 6'6", so like... Yeah, it can't really measure those two. So, you know, it would be like inch for inch in NBA.
So pound for pound is just like, it's an opinion title.
It kind of favors smaller guys.
It's an opinion thing that absolutely does. Yes.
But UFC does do an official ranking for pound for pound.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is decided by people, though. It's,
It seems like it started as like barbershop type shit, and then the UFC was like, why don't we just make this a thing, which is smart.
Yeah.
That's funny. In boxing, I always thought it was an official thing that you can like see on paper.
Yeah. All this ranking shit is, just humans.